my name is Chuck Bertrand. I'm a retired member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, having served 28 years in the force, 23 of them in the Yukon Territory. I'm also the author of the book Constable for Life, Chronicles of Canadian Mountie. You can obtain this book either in print or as an ebook. Now I would like to tell you one of the anecdotes from the book Constable for Life. This story is titled My Musical Career in the RCMP. I'm going to take you back now to the year 1974. It was July, and we'd been in training for about a week at Depot in Regina, Saskatchewan. We learned in that week that majority of us would have to work midnight shifts periodically throughout our training. And the reason for this was to get adapted to the fact of working midnight shifts, because as police officers, most likely we'd be doing that. I wasn't too keen. I was 25 years old, I'd been a teacher prior, and I just wasn't too keen on that. And I mentioned this to my pit partner Rob, and he said, well, why don't you join the musical band, the cadet musical band, the marching band? And I said, the marching band? I said, I can't play an instrument. He said, well, yeah, but if you join the marching band, then you don't have to do extra duties like night shifts. Oh, well, okay, but I can't play an instrument. He said, well, you know, give it a try. Well, that weekend we went into town, and he played a trumpet, so I went and bought a trumpet at a pawn shop. And we went out to a farmer's field, and we practiced. Or tried to practice. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to play a trumpet, but it's pretty hard. You bring it up and you gotta have your lips just so to make a noise. Well, not even a noise, let alone a note. Well, this is kind of a failure, and I was kind of, I think I'll take the trumpet back to the pawn shop. Rob said, listen, they don't check you out. I said, what do you mean they don't check you out? Isn't there tryouts? No. Just get there 15 minutes before the parade, the noontime parade, and just line up and do exactly what I do, and I think you'll be able to get through it. Oh, okay. So come Monday, I get there 15 minutes before the parade, noontime parade. It's called the Sergeant Major's Parade. And I get there, and with Rob, and I'm standing, and the guy who holds the big stick, who's in front, he says, oh, good to see you, and what's your name? He took my name down and this, okay, and get in there, yeah, okay. And then all of a sudden we hear, get on parade. That was the Sergeant Major bellowing from the middle of the parade square. Well, we led the 400 cadets out onto the parade square. And as we're marching out there, all of a sudden the big stick goes up in the air, and Rob brings his trumpet up, and he starts to play. So I brought my trumpet up, and I started. Now this was July, and there was about 1,000 people or so around the parade square. Everything went well, and for 2 weeks it continued like that. I could play all the pieces really good. Well, pretend to play. 2 weeks Monday. Show up. There's only 7 members in the marching band. 7. One guy decided he's going to lead the parade. He took the big stick. The rest of us trying to figure out how we were supposed to get in line with only 7, and what are we going to play? All of a sudden we hear, get on parade. Well, we go marching out there, and the big stick goes up, and we start. Anyways, it was mass confusion. People were laughing, the people lining the parade square laughing. The Sergeant Major all of a sudden yells, parade, halt! And we we come to a stop, kind of stumble into each other. Everything stops. This very unusual. Never has happened before. And the sergeant major comes strutting over with cider stick under his arm. Hey, stop. And he says, you funny little man, get your out of here. And we skedaddled, tripping over each other, and ran. People were laughing, and the sergeant major wasn't impressed. We had to show up at 4:30 to drill hall. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's when I had my private audition with the sergeant major. He came around and he asked each guy to play their instrument. I tell you, I should have been that cymbal player, because boing, boing, that's pretty easy to play. In any case, he came to Rob. Rob could play. Then he came to me, and I put up my trumpet and I went, and the sergeant major looked. He looked. He says, your mouth isn't touching the mouthpiece. I said, no, Sergeant Major. He says, can you play that instrument? I said, no, Sergeant Major. He says, what have you been doing up to now? And I went, he said, you stay behind, Bertrand. I'll deal with you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the rest got off. But I had to polish the floors of the drill hall, and I was confined to barracks for 3 weeks. And my trumpet was taken away from me. I was so discouraged. Well, I walked back, and the residents went up the stairs, walked in, opened the door, and there was a bulletin board, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I caught, and there was this notice: wanted choir members. Choir members. Next day, I showed up, and there was no auditions. Believe it or not, a couple of weeks later, we were invited to a Saskatchewan Rough Rider Montreal Alouette game to sing "O Canada." And I was there in middle center field singing "O Canada." So I could tell you my career, musical career in the RCMP went national. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the stories I've told you, or this story, is from the book Constable for Life, Chronicles of Canadian Mountie. If you're interested in it, check the website out, www.constableforlife.com. Thank you very much. Au revoir.